Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV2. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Derek McInnes ready for Rangers at Pittodrie. England in the World Cup draw. Rodgers says he has an honest squad. That's just a few of the talking points Alan Ruff will be discussing with me, Peter Martin. Delighted to have your company on this Friday. And our bootroom guest is the Daily Mail's Hugh MacDonald. Got a lot to talk about, of course, in the Scottish Premiership. There are double headers, some triple headers as well, that we will be discussing on the programme. Let's have a look at the morning papers first of all. And the Daily Record is the fight clubs. And this is, of course, Scott Brown talking about being pelted with coins, and there's all sorts of other battles going on after that 1-1 draw. King drops McInnes hint as Gers close in on Boss. We'll talk about that. And the other one is Neil Lennon, Anthony Stokes stepped over the line. The Sun, we were the real victims. I get hit by a strawberry chewit. Okay, that's a... And Dell, still Gers #1 is the top banner there in the Sun. And Brown bites back, and also patience is the key for King. So, there you have it. I've had a look at the papers, we've had a look at the back pages. Rumours sweeping the city of Glasgow today. That Derek McInnes was going to be in as the manager before the game at Pittodrie. Well, I can tell you that's not happening. What I do know on this situation, Hugh, is quite simply that Rangers haven't contacted Aberdeen as yet. I am aware of the fact that they have actually, tried to go round the houses without speaking directly to Aberdeen about how much it's going to cost to get Derek McInnes out of the contract. But it won't be done before Sunday. If they do come back to make the first official approach, it will be next week.
Yeah, I'm hearing the same. I've heard that Rangers have made inquiries of precisely how much it will cost to have, or the sum they have to put up to initiate or instigate the clause that allows them to speak to Derek McInnes.
But I don't think that'll be able to be paid in instalments.
No.
If they do make the approach.
I would think that Stuart Milne will play hardball on this. He's not going to facilitate the departure of a manager whom he holds in the greatest regard. So everything will be done by what's in the legal documents, namely the contract. There's also questions, I don't know, Peter, but there will be questions that the simple thing of just coming up with the money and coming up with the wage packet for Derek McInnes might not be enough in itself as well. One presumes that this is a man who has had had an experience before where he went to the wrong club down in Bristol, has turned down a club where he wasn't convinced that he would get the right back in the right ambience. And I'm just wondering if there might be some mileage and pretty detailed talks about budget, etc.
Yeah, so it's not going to happen tonight. He certainly won't be the Rangers manager for the game against Aberdeen at Pittodrie. If they do make their move, Ruffy, I know Derek, I've known him a long time. He's a sensible and smart lad, as well as a good manager. I don't think he would want to become another statistic of managers who've fallen foul of the Brendan Rodgers factor. And picking up on Hugh's point there, if they approach Aberdeen, if they pay the money up front, if they agree a wage with Derek that's more than he's on at Aberdeen, if they then offer them a package and say, not only are you getting this, but here's the amount of money you'll get to buy players to put a dent in it, because there's no doubt on the budget that Rangers have been spending. They should be way ahead of Aberdeen and Hibs, but it's how close he can get them to Celtic. And that is the next manager's predicament, whether it's Derek McInnes or someone else.
Well, first of all, I don't think Rangers have got the money for him to achieve that. So that's the first thing he'll have to bite the bullet on. because I think Rangers are at least 4 or 5 years away. I don't think they have the 50, 60 million pounds that would get anywhere near Celtic at this precise moment. But if his target was to be second, I think the evidence of the Aberdeen game at Ibrox is good enough to say that would be my first target. You know, if you can come in here and be second, take us back into Europe. We heard Dave King saying we won't be the Rangers of old until we start getting European money in. I think they two targets should be enough, if it is Derek, to go ahead with, because I think they're good enough for that.
Yep. As far as the head-to-head between Aberdeen and Rangers, it's back to Pittodrie on Sunday. Of course, midweek Rangers got a 3-0 win, and interim boss at Rangers, Graham Murty, says the players are buzzing.
The boys were quite buoyant in the change room after the game, rightly so. I thought they put a really good shift in, but they've been brought down to earth, not with a bump, quite gently, making sure we get them ready to go again, because we know it's going to be a difficult task on Sunday. It will be more difficult in different ways. I don't really put a scale on these things. I just have to make sure the players are ready for it and they can't take anything for granted. So they know when they go out on Sunday, it's going to be a difficult game. They need to get to the levels they got to on Wednesday in terms of work rate, of commitment, of winning battles, and go from there. That has to be our minimum standard.
Yep, this is a Graham Murty who will be delighted with that win, because as caretaker manager he was under a little bit of pressure after the last two results.
The last two, the results leading up to the Aberdeen match were very poor. You know, losing it to Hamilton at home, you know, historically poor, almost a century of losing. Record of not losing in the league game to Hamilton broken. I thought Dundee was a really dispiriting performance. You know, I watched that match and never at any time was there any conviction about Rangers. And when it went to 2-1, you saw no way back. So yeah, I think that was a great sea change on Wednesday night. A really good result for Rangers on Wednesday night. Comprehensive result as well. I just thought Aberdeen as well were strangely poor in Wednesday night. I didn't think they really turned up at all.
Yep. What about Graham Murty in the future on management?
Possibly increased my account of grey hairs, but as to management, I don't know where I could go actually that would give me the same feeling this place does. But that's something I'm going to have to take away with me and have a look at and consider along with my family in the future. But at the moment, I'm just concentrating on the day-to-day, because I have noticed people get lost in the process and lost in the speculation. I can't afford to do that. I'm not experienced enough to do that, so I'll just make sure that I concentrate on the things that the players need.
It's a strange situation. Here's a boy who's constantly, you know, he's suddenly in the eye of the storm, taken out of it, and then back in it.
Yeah, and this is a guy that could go up to Pittodrie on Sunday, beat Aberdeen, be at the Helm, beating Aberdeen again, beating a McInnes team twice in a matter of days, and being replaced by the manager that he's beaten twice in a matter of days. So anybody says that Scottish football doesn't throw up good storylines is not watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, let's switch to Aberdeen, because it was a poor performance by Aberdeen, and Derek McInnes is well aware of the fact that they need to try and get that consistency back.
I think that we've had some setbacks in the road this season already, but we've also shown a decent level of consistency. That's why we're sitting now into December, we're sitting second in the league, so it's not all doom and gloom, and you know, people need to be reminded of that. But at the same time, we're well aware that at this club, when you lose games, criticism comes, and it's about dealing with that and responding to that. And you know, I fully expect us to try and, as I say, do a lot better, especially in the early part of the game, to make the game go our way. And we're searching for that consistency, like any team, to go and put wins back to back, and hopefully we can do that. But first things first, let's go and try and get the 3 points back that we lost the other night.
Well, before we get the prediction from you two guys on the game, one thing that I think is it could be viewed as being naughty on this, if that story has got absolutely no foundation, it's one of those stories that, you know, again tries to destabilise what's happening up at Aberdeen with Derek McInnes. Again, Aberdeen fans will look at the back page headlines this morning and think, when is this going to stop? And again, it's a crucial game coming up.
No, I think it was at the Rangers AGM there that when Dave King announced that they were still actively looking at a manager, and he threw, what's that word you use, caveat, that this man's still in a contract, you know, and I thought that was thrown in there for everybody to say, oh, who is it? Because it takes you away from, you know, everybody being annoyed, and what it does is it excites you by, oh, who could it be? It's somebody that's still in the contract, and that's why, again, we're now talking about Derek McInnes.
Yeah, well, just in case you have just joined us, I mean, the latest as of Friday is that no contact directly, official contact between Rangers and Aberdeen has taken place. Rangers are well aware of what the compensation package will be to get McInnes out, and I don't believe anything has been mentioned to Derek McInnes as far as becoming the next Rangers manager. Derek McInnes will just be concentrating, as he always does, and just not commenting on speculation, but trying to get his Aberdeen team ready for Rangers. We've got the World Cup draw coming up, and also more Premier League football. Got to be happy with that. Was Lou Macari a good player in your mind?
Oh yeah, it was Lou Macari. He was a decent player. I mean, Lou Macari was so good that when he left Celtic, he thought he was going to Liverpool, and ended up at Manchester United. He was sitting in the stand at Liverpool, ready to sign, and Tommy Docherty had got a phone call to him and said, "Have you actually inked it yet?" And he went, "No. We'll just come along the road and sign for us." That's how good Lou Macari was. The big clubs were after him. I think the good thing, Ruffy will know him better than I do, because he played him in Scotland, but he could play as a striker and he could play in midfield. And I think he had a big part to play in the 1978 aftermath as well, didn't he, Mr. Ruff?
Yeah. Tell us about Lou Macari. No, don't bother. We haven't got an hour.
He was a lovely guy.
Yeah.
You know. What more do you want?
Yeah. Okay, there you are.
Moving on.
And for the benefit of anyone who wants to wait, the second Ruffy autobiography is going to be blistering, by the way. It'll be fantastic. Hugh, I mean, you'll actually have to put your hand in ice before you turn the pages.
It has to be done posthumously, of course. And if he likes that one, that's a caveat to the Ruffy second biography.
Absolutely. Incidentally, if you haven't read Ruffy's first biography, the moment when Dorothy opens the door to Oz, where everything is colourful and lovely and people are really nice, that's just the gist of the whole book. Everybody is lovely. Okay, as we skip along now to Everybody's Not So Lovely, you know I'm going to talk about Celtic against Motherwell. Yes, it's still raging on. I'll tell you, the one thing that I think is a serious point, which I think deserves some serious comment from you guys, is something that Scott Brown picked up on from midweek's game, and I watched it at the time when he was putting missiles back at the side of the track. The PFA have come out and said 35% of Scottish players are threatened by fans, and this is a regular occurrence. This is not one-offs. This is just a group of people who think it's okay to throw coins at players, missiles, anything to inflict some damage on them, physical damage at that. This is what Scott Brown had to say about it.
There's a lot of talk about decisions and stuff like that, but people are getting hit with coins and getting stuff thrown at them pretty much every week now, just because we're doing so well in the league, and the away fans don't like that. But now we've understood it's part and parcel. When you go away, Lee Griffiths is hitting corners, he's getting things thrown at him, and people have got to make sure that we should be okay as well, as when you're going to hit a corner, when you're hitting a free kick. And I know teams that shout, saying whatever they want, but you can't be throwing things at, and it's not showing a great example, is it? Somebody will get hit in the head or something like that with a coin, and until that happens, probably nobody will do nothing about it.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point he makes. Although I would say on this programme, there's no point in everybody taking this moral high ground and pontificating about it, because quite simply, some fans don't care.
No,
They actually don't care. They don't care if you would you try and reason with them, Hugh.
Well, you don't reason with them. Just don't reason with them. Arrest them, lift them,
Yeah.
get the stewards in, and take them. It's a criminal offence. Somebody is going to get badly injured with this. Somebody is going to get. There's going to be a situation where something's thrown on the park, talking about batteries being thrown at players, etc., and something's going to happen. It is a criminal offence, not a football matter. It's a matter for police and stewards to sort out.
Yeah, I agree 100%, but it's not as if it's just started happening.
No.
You know, it's been going on for ages. And I remember way back when I played in Hibs Hearts games, the ball boys behind the goal used to fight for who would go behind what goal because they could make, and I'm not exaggerating this, £15 in coins being thrown onto the park. And it's just been going on and nobody's done anything about it.
Yeah, I think we're on dangerous ground with some players' well-being, especially some of the players who, you know, at the end of the day, are not everyone's cup of tea. And Scott Brown definitely comes into that category.
So does Lee Griffiths.
Yeah, they are the focus of a lot of opposition players. But can I also just counter that again by saying it's not just the Celtic players. You know, you could go to Motherwell, Hibs, Rangers, Hearts. You can go through them all, and there's always a character who, he doesn't necessarily inflame the situation, but he's a villain.
He's a villain.
You know,
but
that's not reason to start throwing things at them.
Shouldn't matter. I mean, it's the simple thing is that it doesn't matter if it's like WWE big wrestling and you've got guys in the ring like some kind of panto. It just doesn't matter. You don't. There's a level of abuse that we know that you can give within the laws. You can shout and bawl, and that's, I think, part of football: shouting and bawling at opposition players, building up an atmosphere. If you stay away from racism, religion, sectarianism, homophobia, there's things that you can G up your team by targeting, but you can't throw things at people. It's just, I mean, it's a preposterous example in the Champions League qualifiers when Lee Griffiths got booked for picking up a half bottle of Bucky and showing it to the referee and saying, "Listen, this is why I can't take a free kick. They're throwing things at me. I'm not wasting time."
Yeah.
So everybody's got to realise that this is just a criminal offence. Police and stewards should go to places where they know that the flashpoints are and police it heavily.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, we've got to be thankful in this country that it wasn't a pig's head. I can still remember that from Louis Figo. It was unbelievable. The Motherwell Celtic arguments, Ray John. Motherwell, and I'm not quite sure why this statement was released in the first place. Motherwell released a statement just basically saying supporters have contacted the club seeking clarity on our position regarding incidents during Wednesday night's fixture. It's unfortunate yet another Motherwell match has been dominated by a debatable decision from a match official. It's left the fans frustrated. We accept that the match officials have a tough job, and obviously it goes on to say that they've made contact with the head of refereeing, which is John Fleming, to express their views and seek feedback. And they also comment on the Scott Brown situation. I don't know why Motherwell did that. I don't know why they released that statement.
I think they've done it because they've been inundated by supporters shouting at them, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about this? You didn't even appeal against the sending off on Sunday. The reason they didn't appeal against sending off on Sunday was they wouldn't have won it. Yeah. It's as simple as that. So the fans are saying, why don't you just, so they've got to be seen to do something. On the fact of the matter about we're seeking talks with John Fleming and going and seeking feedback, that happens anything between 5 and 20 times in a Monday morning for John Fleming. John Fleming, the head of refereeing development in the SFA, will watch all Scottish football at the weekend. And I know this because he's told me this in an interview. He watches every bit of televised that he can get, and he sits down and he prepares for the calls. Now, it's a really nice Monday if nobody phones. Yeah. But most managers will phone and say, "John, what about that for a pair? How did that?" And that's how he gives feedback. Yeah. So the actual fact that they're looking for feedback doesn't mean anything. The actual fact that they're publicising it is just, I think, to say to fans, we're doing something about this.
Yeah, here's what Stephen Robinson had to say about the complaint that was made.
In truth, I'm expecting nothing. That's above me. Okay, the people above me have gone to John Fleming. For me, the decision was made on, let's be honest, Celtic won the cup. We're not going to change that. Okay, they came back and got a point the other night, and we took a point off the champions. That's facts. We're not going to change that. So all the appealing in the world and all the moaning in the world isn't going to change that. So I'm not hoping to achieve anything. What I'm hoping to achieve is a result against Celtic on Saturday.
Yeah, and you know, with regards to the incident, Hugh, and I know we're going to disagree, so I don't really care.
That's what we're here for.
That's exactly what we're here for. You know, Scott Sinclair got it in the neck for his penalty decision. He got booed mercilessly. This is what Brendan Rodgers had to say after the incident midweek. He said his players' integrity is not in question.
No, this is a group of players, like I say, that are so honest in their work. They work tirelessly. They do what the best do, and they give that extra. You know, they give that extra percentage every day in training, and I see the honesty of their work every day, and I see how they play and how they train. You know, we're a team that we like to win on the scoreboard, but we always like to do it whilst being the most sporting team, and I think we showed that last year, and I think up until now we've shown it also. So no, it's the players are absolutely brilliant in their approach to the game and their fair play, and like I say, it's referees' decisions and officials' decisions that you get. And listen, sometimes you don't get it. You know, we had a number last year that cost us points, but it happens.
Yeah, it happens. Okay, I didn't think it was a penalty in midweek. And if you're of a Celtic persuasion, you know, I've spoken to 1,000,001 guys this week who said it's a Stonewall penalty because they've seen it from every angle.
Well, I think it's a Stonewall penalty, but I didn't when I saw it the first time. The first angle I had on it, I thought I couldn't even see what had actually clearly happened. But the angle from behind, the one that Willie Collum has, side on and behind, shows that McGregor's got in front of the ball and the guy's just barged him off the ball. The guy's made no attempt to play the ball. It went through the man. It's a foul. It's in the box. It's there for a penalty.
I'd obviously seen it different, as Hugh touched on.
Did you think it was a penalty, yes or no?
First time, no. First time, no. I thought the player went to play the ball, touched.
Okay, we'll have a break and then we'll argue after it. Yeah, there you are. You'll never believe what we're talking about in the break, actually. We're talking about the book, and Ruffy actually has moved it on to who would play him in a film once the book was, then the rights were sold, Hugh. That's how far ahead Ruffy was thinking of.
We're just trying to bring up the best player. Who did you say? Robert Redford was?
Well, Robert Redford.
Something like that.
Yeah? What do you mean, why? Why does it have to be something
either be him or Paul Newman, or maybe Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Wurzel Gummidge.
Yeah. I think it would be, I think the best person to play you would be Owen Wilson.
Oh, that would be good, yes.
Is that a good shout?
Great shout.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was who'd play you in the movie, Ruffy. And then you just obviously need to get...
In fact, you could get Sylvester Stallone to do goalkeeping scenes.
Yes, absolutely. You can offer your own suggestions on who would play him in the movie. Okay, I'm really sorry to cut Ruffy off before the break there. I think the theme we were on was he who shouts the loudest isn't always the most knowledgeable. So in that, you thought it was a penalty anyway. I've already said
it's my word, the word contact. As soon as you hear somebody said there was contact, so you have the right to get down.
Yeah.
There are levels of contact. I agree with Scott Sinclair the weekend there. He was running in at pace. Yep. Callum's running away from the goal, at no pace whatsoever, and he's touched. I'm not disputing that, but has he touched enough to go down. Obviously, the referee deemed that he was.
And you think it's a penalty?
No, I didn't.
You didn't? Okay. I'm just clarifying that because obviously there's a big Christmas party coming up. Hugh will be walking down Buchanan Street at the weekend, everybody cheering him, and you and I will be wearing Parkers because we don't, and we're not budging on it. It's all about opinions. Of course, let's switch our attention now to another big game coming up, Partick Thistle against Hibernian. And this time around, Neil Lennon has had a bit of controversy to deal with in the background. He sent Anthony Stokes home. This is an update on the Hibs striker.
Isolated incident that, you know, I felt that I'm not going to tolerate it, and he understands that, and he's back in training very well this week, and he's in contention to start at the weekend. His attitude's been very, very good. He's been a bit in and out, but he's still got real quality. Now he needs to, you know, come and add that quality to the squad now, for particularly this month. So he's fit and raring to go.
Well, I'm not happy with Stokes. I think he is a really talented player and he should be one of the top scorers in the division. If he could just actually, as they say in Glasgow, screw the nut, get your head down, do what you're good at, score goals, he would be a hero to the Hibs fans. Yeah,
but he's at Hibs because he can't screw the nut. He can't be relied upon at the very top level. This is an Arsenal player.
Yeah,
Stokes. I mean, you know, this is where he started out. It was Arsenal, you know. So there's a reason why players are at clubs, and the reason why he's not only the reason why he's not at Arsenal, the reason why he's not at Celtic is because his record is checkered. Incidents on and off the park, in training and out of training, which make him difficult for managers. I think Neil Lennon will not be surprised at this. He will have known, he's not daft, he'll have known taking him aboard there was a risk, and that's why he's probably come down very, very heavily on it, because he'll just want no continuation or no reoccurrence of this.
Yeah, of course, there was a lot of fallout from the game against Hamilton Accies. Neil Lennon complaining about the physicality of Accies and their approach to the game, although he's quantified that by saying that he's not asking that everybody avoids challenges against his Hibs players.
Look, I don't want the game sanitised, because tackling is, you know, it's a skill, it's a requirement, but I didn't see much tackling or quality tackling on Saturday. It was just late, players being barged off the ball and nowhere near the ball, and it was consistent throughout the game. I don't complain every week about challenges, but when I do see a reckless challenge against one of my players, then I have to look after the welfare of my players or speak about the welfare of my players. They don't. They just get up and get on with it. But one of these days, someone may end up with a very bad injury due to a reckless tackle.
Well, fullback Stephen Whittaker says that maybe Hibs are being targeted this season because they've got quite a number of skillful and tricky players.
We've got players that can dribble the ball for a start. You know, we've got real good pace in our wide areas. Guys that want to take on players, so we're maybe at more risk of being tackled because we've got players that can go by the opposition. So, as for protection, I don't know. I mean, obviously, some of these tackles will be to stop our flow, we maybe getting into dangerous areas. So there can maybe be tactical fouls, which is frustrating for us because we feel like we're in a good area, and then the foul comes and the team gets behind the ball. So you're kind of back to square one again. So I mean, it's more frustrating for us. But what can you do? The referee sees it how it is, and he'll take action how it is. We can only play the ball when it's in play. It's it can be frustrating, but we kind of need to adapt to that.
Okay, Partick Thistle certainly not known for their physicality. They've just got to try and make sure over the month of December, Ruffy, that they can string a few victories together, because this is an 8-match run in December for them.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I'm sure Alan and the players will be up for that. Obviously, it was encouraging to get the late goal against Hearts. It's something to build on. But again, Alan will know that consistency is something that hasn't happened very often, but they have got the ability to win 2 or 3 games on the bounce, and in the 2 or 3 games that he wins on the bounce generally put them up that league, and that's what they'll have to do in the games that are coming up.
Okay, we've talked about Hibs. Let's switch our attention to the maroon half of the city. It's Hearts against Hamilton Accies, and Craig Levine has been talking about how they might have to deal with the physicality of Hamilton Accies.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, this league's physical. I looked at Neil's maybe just frustrated because I looked at the game. I watched the game, and I think Hamilton had 2 shots at goal and scored with one of them. You know, we had 23 and couldn't score with any. So that's just, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's an element of frustration there. I think they're a hard team to play against. You know, they have had a little bit of a tricky spell earlier on. Got a couple of wins, maybe against the run of play, but they've managed to pick up points, and because of that, they're obviously feeling a little bit more confident. They went to Ibrox not so long ago and won. And as I say, you know, things have turned round for Martin, and I'm delighted that is the case. But I mean, they're physical, of course they are, but I mean, that's something that we expect every week. Yeah,
I think they'll be up for the challenge because it's quite a physical side as Hearts as well at the moment, so they'll be well up for the battle. Interestingly enough, Dougie Emery's mentioned not getting involved in all that. They just want to survive. They're surprising a few people of late. If they beat Hearts at the weekend, they would climb into the top half of the table.
They're surprising me. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because they survive every season, but I still maintain every season in my prediction of Hamilton being at the bottom of the league. So yeah, they certainly surprised me this season. A couple of the results in particular. Anybody says they weren't surprised by Hamilton going to Rangers and winning 2-0, or Hamilton going to Easter Road and winning by 3. I don't think as a dedicated football supporter, or certainly a Scottish football supporter. I mean, but they've done very, very well. Hearts you talk about the right time to get a team. Hearts low in confidence. Apparently the performance wasn't bad against Ross County. I saw the highlights, certainly had a lot of chances, but could have lost the game. I mean, Schalke scores from what I think is an onside position. So Hearts are in a state of flux at the moment, maybe a state of lack of confidence. So an interesting game.
Yeah, full marks too. I meant to mention this yesterday on the programme, my apologies. Anne Budge and Leanne Dempster, and Hibs and Hearts in general just getting together now with the Edinburgh Evening News. It's an initiative to try and put a bit of a smile on the faces of people in Edinburgh and the community, Ruffy. I think I just actually think it's a fantastic initiative, Edinburgh Cheer campaign, where basically you have to make a pledge and, you know, be seen to do things like smile and say Happy Christmas to a traffic warden, a shop assistant, a fellow commuter, something with a festive spirit, you know, every day, just be really positive.
Well, I hope we carry it on to the Derby game. You know, that'd be good if everybody from either side shows that. You got into the game.
Or into tackles, just saying after you, Dylan, you just take the ball.
In the festive season, it is always good to put a smile on people's face.
Yeah, maybe invite someone for lunch, a neighbour or something like that as well. Having lived in Lothian Road, it's mighty difficult to say Happy Christmas to a traffic warden when you're on your 30th ticket.
That week?
Yeah. Hugh, you know it so well, but I do think it's a brilliant initiative from them. So if somebody can take the pledge, be nice to people, be happy. If you see Ruffy and myself in the Princess Street, just give us a wave, Ruffy. That's all we want. Just something nice to say to us. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think people in general are very nice to us.
Yeah.
That's the fusion always.
Yeah,
exactly. It's too nearly tooth.
Exactly, and you can also sing as well. There's going to be a carol singing as well. That would be great. We'd be great at that, Ruffy. Anyway, we're going to take the pledge. We're right behind it for Hearts and Hibs. We're going to have a quick break. Then we're going to come back and talk about the remaining fixtures in the Premiership and all the other divisions in Scotland. Yeah, 1995, the year there. Pulp, Common People. Gave it away, Hugh. Yep. Sorry. Ross County against Dundee. Now, the manager, Steve Clark, has actually made most of the players sit through a rerun of last week's dismal display against Aberdeen. Tell me, what's it like as a player when you have to sit through something again? You know, you wouldn't have done it too many times in the early 70s unless, you know, Dave McParland had a cine projector, but other than that,
no, it was just verbal. There was nothing to watch. Obviously, you saw the highlights on the telly, but no, you would just sit in a room and he would just go through everybody and through every instant, and hopefully everybody remembered what had happened. Yeah,
I think Steve Clark wouldn't have had to have played that much of it. First 10 minutes would have been enough, and just put that in a loop for the rest of the afternoon. For that's what killed him. Absolutely killed him. Just didn't start again. Yeah.
Again, you know, now you get that honeymoon period that's over. Now they'll get used to him, and now this is where I think you'll really try and get his mitts into them before they get to that January transfer window.
Yep, and because he's come in and he's come in not the salary that he's always been at, but he'll be on a decent salary, and they've also, you know, they'll also come in with the board saying to him, listen, there's room to manoeuvre at least in January. So everybody's literally playing for their jobs at the moment. He's such a good coach that he's already made a difference, Peter. You know, he's in terms of organisation, in terms of confidence, in terms of what the players want to do. But yeah, they could kick on again. It makes for a very interesting Premiership. We really have got a fantastic, because a lot of the assumptions at the beginning of the season are just not working out.
Yeah, have St Johnstone turned the corner in your mind?
Maybe not turned the corner, but I think they'll do enough to be. There was a point where I was beginning to slightly fear for them because they were, you know, 7 hours without a goal, etc., etc. I think St Johnstone will be fine. I think St Johnston's next crisis will be if Michael O'Neill, we know. It looks as if the SFA are going to trigger that clause for talks, which is to put up 500 grand and then they can talk to him. If he goes in, I think Tommy Wright would be very much in the frame for the Northern Ireland job. If Tommy Wright leaves St Johnstone, that is a crisis.
Yeah, and Ross County against Dundee. If Dundee can't get on a high after defeating Rangers roughly, you know, nothing's going to get them there. But they're at Ross County at Dingwall.
Well, I think both of them. I think even Ross County would take something out of the Hearts game, although there was backs against the wall. They came away, it's positive, you build on that. So I think that'll be an interesting scoreline tomorrow at the end of the day.
OK, here's how the fixtures look in the Premiership and all the other divisions. You can join us tomorrow at 2 o'clock on STV2 for 4 hours. Hugh, Ruffy and of course Gordon Smith will be with us. Celtic against Motherwell, Hearts, Hamilton, Partick Hibs, Ross County Dundee, St Johnstone Kilmarnock, and of course Aberdeen Rangers is on the Sunday with a 12:30 kick-off. The Championship, it's Dundee United against Dunfermline. That'll be our Championship game of the day. Des McKeown will be up there at Tannadice. Livingston, Falkirk, Morton, Brecon, Queen of the South Inverness and St Mirren against Dumbarton. In League One, it's Airdrie against Forfar, Arbroath, Stranraer, Ayr United, Albion Rovers, Queen's Park, East Fife and Wraith Rovers against Alloa. And in League Two, Annan Athletic against Elgin, Berwick Rangers, Stirling Albion, Clyde Montrose, Cowdenbeath, Stenhousemuir and Peterhead against Edinburgh City. So there's the Premier League for you as well. We'll be speaking to Ian McGarry about that just shortly. Chelsea against Newcastle's the early kick-off. And of course we're going to talk to Ian about Everton Huddersfield in a moment. The two Sunday games, Bournemouth Southampton and Man City against West Ham. So that's what's on offer. Of course, all the talk down south, because they're the only nation looking forward to the World Cup, is of course England. Earlier on we caught up with Ian McGarry to get his thoughts on that draw for Gareth Southgate's team.
Well, Peter, on the face of it, you would think that it would be an easy one for them, wouldn't you? I mean, Belgium, okay, that's something which England will have to negotiate, and they're one of the best teams in Europe. But Tunisia and Panama, I think the draw's been kind to them. This was a draw from, remember, the first time 32 teams are participating in the World Cup finals. So the draw has been specifically designed to avoid our traditional favourite, which is, of course, the Grupo del Morte, or Group of Death. So, indeed, there is no Group of Death. In fact, the hardest group, it appears, is Portugal, Spain, Iran and Morocco. Morocco having qualified in some substantial style, actually. Iran being a bit of an unknown, but obviously the European champions Portugal against former world champions Spain in Group B. That looks like the highlight of the group stages. England, as I said, Tunisia and Panama, but let's face it, we've seen England in the last two tournaments, both the European Championships and the World Cup in 2014, and they have proved us to be capable to go out to anyone, including Iceland. Population less than that of Royal Wishaw. So let's see what happens.
Can I just say, Ian, that Iran should not be underestimated?
Neither, Ruffy. That man, Victor Trumpetas.
There is a great name. I can't, you know, he's pulled that from his sticker album. Hector Chumpitas.
Another one for you. Teofilo Cubillas.
Oh, that name has not to be mentioned on this programme. It brings him out in a cold sweat. It's incredible.
Ruffy, same corner.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. It's great that not one single Scot ever forgets you.
No, the elephants of the national world of Scots. I was going to say though, what's the feeling about England under Southgate? Is there a confidence about it, or is he still very much under probation?
Totally underwhelmed, I think would be the right way to put it. I think Southgate's tried to put his stamp on it. He's tried to be brave. He obviously dropped Rooney to begin with during the qualifiers, then demoted him from being captain. Rooney had his revenge, as we spoke about on the programme some weeks ago, when he retired from international football when he was about to be recalled. And since then, Southgate's done his best to try and integrate young players into the team and see how it goes. But I don't think anyone in England believes that the team will progress any further than their quarterfinals at best. That would be a result. I think there's a hunger or a desire for a lot of the younger players from the successful under-18s and under-21 squad to be integrated into this new World Cup squad. England have complained for years that a lack of tournament football, a lack of tournament mentality has been to their disadvantage when it comes to these types of championships. And these are players, and I say that from the under-21s and under-18s, who've been very successful, in fact, world champions at both levels. So I think the hope is that Southgate will be brave, but you've got to remember that every manager lives or dies by results. So if he has a terrible World Cup and England go into the group stage, especially now they've drawn Tunisia and Panama, then Southgate will lose his job. So I think what we'll see in the coming weeks and months in terms of friendlies and preparation and then squad being picked will be a much more pragmatic Southgate, mixing some of that youth with a lot of experience.
Just one point before you go, Ian, obviously back to Premier League action at the weekend, but two quick little things. One, Rooney's goal. I mean, they must surely be raving about it down there. It was just world class from him, and of course he joins. He's got a manager now in Sam Allardyce that I think will take Everton in the right direction.
I think that's correct, Peter. I was quite pleased for Rooney. I think he's had quite a difficult time since he went back to Everton, and he showed his class when he, not just that goal, but the hat-trick in itself was very, very like Rooney of old. But that goal in itself, I mean, it was a shot, it was a proper shot. Anyone who's played football knows to put your laces through a ball 58 yards out and score. It wasn't a lob, it wasn't a chip. He beat every player and the goalkeeper who were back in that Everton their half with a goal which was of magnificent quality. And Allardyce watching, Big Sam's a kind of like, down-to-earth bloke who's going to get Rooney on his level and get him playing, etc., etc. So something, I think, which is positive for Everton. They've been waiting for it for quite some time. They've got it now. And they've got a big game, obviously, against Huddersfield Town tomorrow. Both teams, you would say, in a relegation fight. Huddersfield having lost to Arsenal 5-1 this week already. Everton at home again, so I think that would be quite an interesting one. And obviously Big Sam's presence, even just at Goodison Park tonight, has a positive effect.
Okay, thanks to Ian. I'm going to, I kid you not, guys, I leave you with the thoughts of some other media outlets who've actually released details of England's potential route to the final.
Yeah.
I kid you not, Hugh. England will not reach the World Cup final.
No, they won't. But they will. Certain things we can predict, that they will be talked up as if they will. Within the first minute of the first group match, the phrase 1966 will be mentioned. And in the first match, non-England, some commentators said, well, I don't see anything here to bother us. So these are all rituals that come with the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Hugh for coming on the show tonight. The big question on everybody's lips who's been texting us, tweeting us, will Ruffy turn up at the Peter and Ruffy Christmas party? Details coming up on Monday's show. But join us tomorrow, STV2 at 2 if you can. Thanks for watching. Good night.